Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In Surah Al-Ma'idah verses 96 and 97, the Quran says, "It is lawful for you to hunt and eat seafood as a provision for you and for travelers, but hunting on land is forbidden to you while on pilgrimage. Be mindful of Allah to whom you all will be gathered. Allah has made the Kaaba, the sacred house, a sanctuary of well-being for all people, along with the sacred months, the sacrificial animals, and the offerings decorated with garlands. All this so that you may know that Allah knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, and that He has perfect knowledge of everything." Now in these verses you can clearly see that Allah starts talking about Hajj and the significance of the Kaaba. But it seems interesting why Allah has chosen to talk about pilgrimage when in the previous verses we were discussing the need to avoid addiction in order to wholeheartedly enter Islam and then progress to the stages of Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. What's the link? If you remember, the previous verse 93 talked about the need for taqwa. Be conscious of God, fear Him, but also have hope in Him. Build that level of taqwa in order to progress spiritually. But how do you have taqwa, or how do you build it? What do you do? We understand that to eliminate addiction will help us get to the first stage, which is the stage of Islam. But how do you further build your taqwa to get to Iman and Ihsan? First of all, understand the boundaries that Allah has set. Not just in terms of Haququllah, but also in terms of Haququl Ibad. What are the things that have been categorically disliked by Allah? And what are the things that Allah truly loves? If you don't even know the boundaries, then how can you have fear of Allah? For example, when does a child have fear of his parents? When he knows that he has done something that will make them angry. Until then, he never has fear. The child understands his boundaries, and when he crosses them, that's when the fear sets in. Similarly, if a child wants his parents to forgive him, he will do things to make his parents happy. But for that, he needs to know what will make his parents happy. If he has no idea, chances are that he will do things that he thinks will make his parents happy, but might actually end up making them even more upset. This is the case with Allah. If you want to have fear of Him, first learn what He doesn't like, so that your body will automatically react when you even get close to those things. Similarly, if you want to have hope in His mercy, find out what God likes so that you can do those things, and that will give you hope. Secondly, differentiate yourself from the rest by standing up for what is right, speaking against oppression and injustice, saying kind and uplifting words to others, sharing knowledge that can help guide others. Be patient with Allah's makhluk. If you want Allah to love you, then love His people. Sincerely have a desire to help others, to do the right thing. Understand that it's not about you, it's about Allah and Islam. These two steps will help to not only inculcate taqwa, but it will help to increase taqwa so that you can move from Islam to Iman and Ihsan. So step number 1 is understand what God likes and understand what He dislikes. And step number 2, differentiate yourself from the rest by conducting jihad. In fact, this, by the way, is why non-Muslims who have taqwa eventually come to Islam. They had taqwa even before Islam because of their innate moral compass, the compass we are all born with, the compass that gives us feelings of guilt when we have done something wrong, and feelings of happiness when we have helped someone. So non-Muslims who always try to stay away from evil, refrain from any addiction, always try to do good things, automatically build on their level of taqwa. Inevitably, their hearts soften so much that they are able to easily embrace Islam. Then, of course, to further improve their level of taqwa, they will have to refrain from things that God does not like and do things that God does like. So it's not just about their moral compass, it's about studying the Quran, understanding the Sharia, and changing your life accordingly. Now, having explained this, it makes it obvious why Allah suddenly talks about Hajj and the Kaaba. Every ritual in Islam involves the need for taqwa. In prayers, the Muslim has to make a conscious effort to do the 5-time prayers. In zakat, the believer must control his love for money and fear Allah. In fasting, the Muslim has to control his love for food and drink and fear Allah. But the one ritual that needs a lot of taqwa in order for it to be completed is the Hajj, because there are so many rituals and rites that have to be followed. And while being in a foreign land with such a big crowd, the believer has to be patient, kind, and loving. He has to forego status, comfort, ease, luxury for a significant period of time. He has to endure extreme hardship without complaining. When wearing the ihram and traveling to Makkah, he cannot hunt animals on land, even though Allah will test him by making animals easily accessible to him. Yet he must refrain, as mentioned in verse 94, so that Allah can make evident who truly has taqwa. That's why verse 94 says, O believers, Allah will surely test you with game within the reach of your hands and spears to distinguish those who fear Him in secret. Whoever transgresses from now on will suffer a painful punishment. So basically, Allah will test Muslims so that Allah can make evident who truly controls his desires for the love of Allah, who truly controls his addictions, his temptations, to abstain from what Allah hates and do what Allah loves. Similarly, verse 100 informs us that evil and good, right and wrong, are not the same, even though evil might appear to be appealing and impressive. In fact, you will see the same thing with Bani Israel. During the day of Sabbath, they were told not to fish. But to test them, Allah made fish very accessible on the day of Sabbath in order to see who will really refrain, and by doing so will really increase his taqwa, and who will just give in to temptation. The same thing is what Allah is saying over here, that Allah will make land animals very accessible to people while they are on pilgrimage, just to test them. And those who are able to really refrain are those who have high taqwa, and by doing so will further be able to increase their level of taqwa. In fact, it is also interesting that Allah allows marine life to be caught and eaten while wearing the ihram, but not land animals. Why? As mentioned previously, hunting, killing, slaughtering, and skinning a land animal involves a lot of aggression. It gives our bodies a surge of adrenaline. The entire point of Hajj is control your animal desires. Be calm and patient in all situations so that you can be the best version of yourself. Any act that might build aggression has to be avoided. So the benefit of now talking about Hajj is that Allah is informing the believer that if he wants to build that taqwa to go from Islam to Iman and Ihsan, then just like Hajj, in which every moment is about being aware of rituals and rites, showing sabr and humility, and always being focused on Allah, the believer needs to always monitor himself, his every action, reaction, his words, his behavior, his gestures. The more he monitors himself, the more he can keep a check on himself to ensure that he isn't going near Allah's boundaries and he is doing things that Allah loves. This, if you remember, was the first step. Find out what Allah hates and avoid it. Find out what Allah loves and do it. But not just for one day or a week or a year. Make it a permanent feature of your life. Of course, you will be tested and you will make mistakes. You will go off track at times. You will succumb to temptations. That's okay. Just don't give up. Get back to Islam. Try harder to stay on the path of Islam. In the same way that a person wearing ihram can make a mistake when he is tested by yielding to the temptation and killing a land animal, his Hajj is not wasted. He is not told to go back home. He is not told that Allah will never forgive you. He is just told to give a kafara. He has to sacrifice an equivalent animal to the one that he killed, or he has to feed the needy or fast a certain number of days. So there is forgiveness even when you give in to your temptations. Then Allah tells us in verse 97 that the Kaaba is a sacred house, standing for the people in a sacred month, and there are sacrificial animals wearing special garlands that means that they have been earmarked for sacrifice at Hajj. Is Allah still just talking about the Hajj? But if that is the case, why does He end the verse by saying, in this way you may know that Allah knows what is in the heavens and the earth, and He knows all things? How does the month of Hajj, the sacrificial animals at Hajj, the people at Hajj, help us know that Allah knows everything in the heavens and the earth? What does that mean? The Kaaba isn't just any house. It's a sacred house that stands out from the rest. The people circulating the Kaaba are not like other people. They stand out from the rest. The month of Hajj is not like any other month. It stands out from the rest. The sacrificial animals are not like the other animals. They stand out from the rest. That's why they wear special garlands. So if you want to build taqwa, stand out from the rest. Don't follow the crowd. Speak out for justice. Speak out for the truth. When you stand out, it involves a struggle. It's not easy being the odd one out who wants to do the right thing. So Allah is telling us that when you stand out like the Kaaba, like the people circulating the Kaaba, like the month of Hajj, like the sacrificial animals, Allah knows the struggle you are enduring. He knows what's going on in your heart. He knows how hard it is, and yet you are doing it for Allah alone. Society might not know, but Allah knows, and you will be rewarded for it. And that is all that matters. This is why in the verse while talking about Hajj, Allah suddenly says that He knows everything that is in the heavens and in the earth. He knows everything. The link is that when you are trying to differentiate yourself and you are engaging in jihad and you're trying to build that level of taqwa and you know that Allah is testing you, yet you are trying your best. Allah understands this. He knows what you're doing and He knows that you're doing it for His sake. And that's why Allah ends by saying He knows everything and you will be rewarded for every struggle. So I hope you can now appreciate the reason why Allah, after talking about taqwa, is suddenly talking about the Kaaba and pilgrimage and the people wearing ihram. These are not verses that are coming out of nowhere. There is a beautiful link between them. The idea is that controlling your addiction will be able to get you to the level of Islam. But how do you get to Iman and Ihsan? Build your level of taqwa further. How? Number one, find out about Allah's boundaries. What does Allah like? What does Allah not like? Make sure that you try and maintain your level of taqwa, just like a person in Hajj has to constantly maintain his taqwa, has to constantly keep a check on himself. It should not be something that you do once a year, once a month, once a week. It should be a permanent feature of your life. Just like a person going on Hajj does not maintain his taqwa for just a couple of days, he has to do it for the entire pilgrimage. The same thing is what we have to do for our entire life. That's what the struggle is. And the second most important thing, differentiate yourself. Stand out from the crowd. If you're trying to struggle for Allah because you love Him so much, then you should be differentiated from everyone else who is still chasing dunya. Assalamu alaikum.